Good morning, all. I am
Hello.
joined with Tara Cicchetti this morning. I'm Amanda Marino. You don't usually hear me on the Wednesday Buzz, but I'm so excited to be joining Tara today. Jaslyn couldn't make it this morning, but Tara, how are you?
I'm okay. I'm hanging in. Optimistically running on like 2 hours sleep. So if I'm a little bit, if I sound a little bit of vocal fry, cut me a break, all right? that, but otherwise, I'm all right. I'm hanging in. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm excited because I don't feel like we've never hosted together, but I've definitely been your news
No.
contributor on shows before.
Like the only times I feel like the last time we were on air together was when something bad happened and we needed a lot of people covering it. And then before that was the Christmas thing, which I still have that playlist saved, by the way.
Oh, that was so fun. Yeah, we did the 12 Days to Christmas, me, you, and Philippe. And we
Yeah.
talked about some of our favorite songs that came out in 2020. Yeah, that was super fun. Yeah, I forgot about that for a second. So that's
Yeah, I still got that one.
I love that. I love that.
So,
Um,
story wise, what are we looking at today?
so we're looking at new CDC guidelines about fully vaccinated Americans, the lowest ratings for the Oscars, and we're looking at some, I would say, odd news. A man living on an Italian island to leave after 32 years, and a Japanese man arrested for dating 35 women only to get birthday gifts. So, lots of interesting news, I would say, Tara.
Yeah, I'm excited. This is gonna be a good show. But before we do all of that, we need to hear the news. Daji, how are you doing today?
I'm all right. How are you guys?
Good.
Hanging in.
So, good morning. My name is Daji here at 90.3 WMSC Upper Montclair, and here's your newscast. Reports from AP are that in India, New Delhi's government-run Hindu Rao Hospital is overburdened and understaffed. Dr. Siddharth Tara, a postgraduate medical student, has had COVID-19 symptoms from the beginning of the week. His hospital wants him to keep working until the testing laboratory confirms he has COVID 19. Many postgraduate doctors are protesting as they have been subjected to extreme workloads, lack of pay, rampant exposure to the virus, and complete academic neglect. In 2003, Evan Miller was 14 in Alabama when he and another team beat Cole Cannon with a baseball bat before setting fire to his trailer. Details from AP state that a judge on Tuesday resentenced Evan Miller to life without parole. On Monday, Captain Rebecca Hillman was charged with criminally negligent homicide in the death of inmate Ryan Wilson, who hung himself at the Manhattan Detention Complex. The New York Times is reporting that Captain Hillman left Wilson to hang for nearly 15 minutes before doing anything. Captain Hillman has pleaded not guilty and the investigation remains ongoing. Currently in the Montclair area, it is a high 52 degrees. We are expecting a high 82 degrees, which sounds amazing, and a low 46 degrees later tonight. This has been your newscast with Dodgy here at 90.3 WMSC Upper Montclair.
Thank you, Daji. And now off to our 2-minute warning with Matt. Matt, how are you?
Good morning. Hello. How are you guys?
Good.
All
All
right,
right.
let's get into the 2-minute warning. I'm Matt Prochet. So yesterday in Montclair State Sports, the softball team won both games of a doubleheader against William Patterson University of scores of 5-3 and 7-3. Today, both lacrosse teams are in action as the men's team will travel to Kane for a match at 7, while the women will stay at home for a game against Stockton at 7 as well. Tomorrow, the baseball team will get a crack at William Patterson University at home and will play them again on Friday away. In professional sports, the NFL draft is taking place tomorrow. Both New York teams with top 15 picks looking to make a splash and turn their franchises around. For the Jets, they will 100% be going with the quarterback with the second overall pick in the draft as they traded away Sam Darnold earlier in the offseason. In the MLB, the Yankees avenged their loss 2 days ago and beat the Orioles yesterday with a score of 5-1. DJ LeMahieu, Giancarlo Stanton, and Aaron Judge all came to play as they all tallied multi-hit games as well combining for 4 of the 5 runs. While in Queens, the Mets faced their usual problem of a lack of runs, losing to the Red Sox 2-1. Today, the Mets will get another chance at Boston, while the Yankees will play the Orioles again. In the NBA, the Nets have clinched a playoff spot. So far, the trio of KD, Kyrie, and James Harden, although they've only played 7 games together, is living up to expectations. They won yesterday with a score of 116 to 103 against the Toronto Raptors. They're off today, while the Knicks will host the Chicago Bulls at Madison Square Garden. In the NHL, the Rangers beat the Sabres 3-1, while the Devils beat the Flyers 6-4. And today, in sports history, in 1956, undefeated world heavyweight boxing champion Rocky Marciano retires from the ring while his legacy fights on. I'll send it back to you guys.
Thank you so much. I'm so surprised to hear Devils and win in the same sentence, let alone against the
Yikes.
Flyers. This is nice. I like the sportscast today. This season has been, it's been something. But like, you can't even like be mad because half the roster has had COVID problems. Like a lot of teams, like all the statistics are so weird because of that. But
It's what I keep saying too with the whole sports thing, that like 2020, but as also 2021 is going to kind of have like an asterisk next to it. It's going to
yeah,
be, there's always going to be like, whether you had the season, whether people were out, whether whatever, there's always going to be like a little thing next to it that says, hey, there was
Yeah.
COVID this year and there
So
was going to be.
right.
in the past season for the NBA, the Lakers won. Like LeBron James, Anthony Davis, they carried the Lakers to a championship, and now people are like after that happened, people are wondering like does this championship was this championship easier than like
Like,
others?
does it matter as the same way if you look at
Right.
it that way?
Like you
Like they
said,
still
there's
went
always a
through the
little like,
entire playoffs, won the championship. Like I don't know.
yeah, and I mean it's tough because like everybody's even after people get better, thank God, a lot of these athletes have recovered. Like the recovery on it on from COVID is not uniform. It's not the same for everybody. So it's seeing the way the season plays out is going to be interesting. But
For sure.
I mean, props to everybody doing what they got to do to keep people safe and get this over with.
Yeah, I agree. And you know what, Tara? I'm really sick of hearing about COVID news. You know that?
Oh, 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 yeah. I remember we when we started doing this back in about a year ago.
Yeah.
I was already like, we got to talk about something else. We just have to.
Yeah. I agree. It's been a wild year and like a month, I guess, at this point. Like it's been a wild time and I hate hearing about the news. Like it just keeps getting, like, it feels like for a while it was just getting worse. But we have good COVID news today, Tara.
This is wild.
This is
That's a
this is
wild statement.
exciting. This is a lot of improvement for everyone. So yesterday, on Tuesday, the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, the CDC, says people who are fully vaccinated do not need to wear a mask when they're outdoors unless they are in a crowd, such as attending a live performance, sporting event, or parade. People are considered fully vaccinated 2 weeks after receiving the second dose of the Pfizer, Moderna vaccines, or 2 weeks after the single dose of the Johnson and Johnson vaccine. So what does this mean? So this means that if you're walking, running, hiking, or biking outdoors alone or with members of your household, or you're attending a small outdoor gathering with fully vaccinated family and friends, or you're attending a small outdoor gathering with a mixture of fully vaccinated and unvaccinated people, or dining at an outdoor restaurant with friends and from multiple households, you're set to go and you do not need to wear a mask, is what they say. Obviously,
Yeah.
if you still feel like you need to because you just, that makes you feel safe, obviously do what makes you feel safe. But this is coming from the CDC, who's saying that it's okay and you don't need to wear a mask if you are fully vaccinated when you're outside. Now,
Right.
I will say with the whole walking and running thing, I don't know if that many people were really wearing them to begin with when they were walking or running, because it just,
Yeah,
if
I
you're
see you
outside alone.
people. I see you. I see. You think I don't see you? I see you. People doing laps around like Verona Park and stuff with no mask, breathing on everybody. I see you.
um
But this
but
is
yeah, this is like a huge improvement. I mean, what do we think about this? This is exciting.
it is exciting, and it's exciting coming from a stronger the CDC that's back to talking with the World Health Organization and stuff. Like this seems like a statement they wouldn't make casually. So I'm cautiously optimistic about this. It's kind of one of those things where it almost feels like this is something I would never be reading, you know?
Yeah, and I feel like it goes again with what you feel is safe for you, because obviously every state is looking different with COVID. Your friends might be treating COVID differently than others. So that's really just something to all look at. And I do have this document that they shared as well yesterday that I want to screen share. So anybody that's watching on Facebook right now will be able to see it.
Or the
Anyone that's
YouTube
listening,
playback.
yeah, you could watch it, see it later.
Mhm.
This is something that they shared yesterday. This specific piece was shared at NPR. It kind of gives you a graph that says what is the safest thing to do right now during the pandemic and what is not, and like what your level of safety is. So it kind of goes through all the outdoor activities like we just said, and it also kind of goes through the indoor activities as well, that kind of says like, oh, this is a little less safe if you're wearing, like, a little less safe to do, but if you're wearing a mask, you're good. So basically, it says every activity basically possible. If you're fully vaccinated, you're in a better scenario. But obviously, when we start going into more indoor activities, you should be still wearing a mask because of the ventilation in places, and you don't know who's around you.
Right, just like, the numbers of people that you're dealing with.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry if there's a little bit of background noise, by the way. My dog has elected to scratch an itch on his nose by running his face into the sofa.
He
Um,
thought the perfect time too, right? Like during the
yeah.
show.
So if you hear just like the sound of like annoyed snorting and sofa fabric, that's what that is. But that's his prerogative. But yeah, like this is something I think that it's like I mean, obviously you got to do masks and like you said, in closed situations
Mhm.
where I mean, in a situation like that, no matter how hard you try, you can never 100% verify everybody that's in the building,
No.
right? Like, no matter how, even if you wanted to try to check people at the door, like for those like your vaccination cards or whatever, there would never be 100% accuracy. So of course you want to
Yeah.
like do a little bit of due diligence, but like this is not a small deal. This is a step back toward like functioning in a somewhat normal way.
Yeah.
This is wild. I mean, not to get depressive or anything, but like, there's a while it felt like we wouldn't be reading stories like this.
No, no, yeah. The only thing that I guess I get concerned with this whole thing, and I mean, like, I know I'm vaccinated, Tara. I know you're vaccinated. I know we have, like, and a lot of other people in New Jersey and around the country are, but I think my worry with this is some people will take advantage of this that may have not been vaccinated, that like may be saying, "Oh, I am," and then like kind of seem like they're not an issue, but like it might be an issue.
Right.
And that's not going to be everybody. I'm sure they've already been trying to pull that for a while. Like,
Right.
if
That's
we
what I
look at
was
our
gonna
Karens
say.
and such, but
That's what I was gonna say. I feel like they're the same people that have been already like not following the rules and not taking this seriously. And at the end of the day, for the most part, and this sounds like I don't want to sound shallow or dismissive, but they're the people that are going to have to answer for that type of stuff,
yeah.
that type of behavior. So,
Daji, what are you thinking about this?
Um, so I mean, I then read the safer activities and stuff, but I was first like thinking, how about going inside like retail stores?
Hmm.
But then I saw that you still had to wear a mask. But it'd be interesting if they like put vaccinated people don't have to wear a mask. Um, and how like what Tara was saying, like the controversy, like people acting or pretending to like, have the vaccination. You were also saying it, Amanda.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Because nobody's actually, there's not like a vaccination police. Like, did
No,
you
yeah,
get
and I
it?
mean, that's why a lot of people have been talking about these passport things. I know New York has already done it. They already have like an app, but I know it's going to come into play. Like other countries are starting to do that. It's hard here because not a lot of people in the United States want that.
I mean,
Um,
it's hard, but it's also like there's also it's also not, because since everything in the United States is privately owned, and that's something that's a huge part of the way we do business and the way our country works. In this case, what that means is that every company who wants to say you need to be vaccinated to use our service, whether that be venues, airlines, buses, whatever, since they're a private institution, they have the right to say whatever they want.
yeah, I that's what I'm that's why I think like a lot of people, as much as like right now, not everything is being mandatory to get a vaccine. It's kind of like your choice unless you're going to like certain workplaces or certain schools. Like, at Montclair, we just made it mandatory for you. If you're attending here, you have to get a vaccine. And I think that brings up an interesting point that I feel like in over the next couple weeks into the months, I feel like more of that's going to come out, that companies are going to start requiring it. Like if you're looking at a company like, I don't know, like those big corporations first, like Apple or like Google, like to get back into the office, they're going to say you're probably going to need a vaccine. And that's just how you're
Right.
going to see it. And it's going to start at the big companies and it's going to make its way down. I mean, I saw the other day there's a hospital, I don't remember the name, in Texas that finally made it mandatory for all their employees to get the vaccine. But
The
uh,
fact that medical workers need to get told in some places is
yeah,
a little bit alarming, but
uh,
anyway.
but basically, so they have until June something, like the beginning of June, to get the vaccine. If they don't, they're going to be suspended for 2 weeks with like obviously without pay or anything. And if they don't get it within that next 2 week period or like start getting like the first dose or whatever, they're going to then start the termination process with them, which is an interesting process. And I mean, I'm not saying every company's going to do that. I doubt every company's going to do it, but I think a lot of what we love, like going to concerts and Broadway shows and things like that,
Right.
it's going to be required because of those tight spaces, those tight, like, concert venues or, like I said, Broadway theaters. It's tight in those spaces. We need to have some kind of assurance that it's going to be okay.
Right.
You know,
And at least just a little bit of, people trying to do the right thing with the
Daji, what are you
masks.
thinking?
I was gonna say, it's pretty interesting because I feel like I probably was like one of the first people to get COVID because it was like in December 2019.
Oh, you had, all
And
right.
I felt
I
like
want to hear this. Go for it. I want to hear your experience with it.
um so it was like, oh my gosh, it was horrible. I felt like that was it because I went to the ER. I was here walking around, like my friends were forcing me to go ice skating. I'm like, I really don't feel well. And I was just thinking, because I've had pneumonia before. I'm like, imagine I have pneumonia and then I go to the ER like after 2 nights of just like feeling horrible. And they're like, you've been walking around with like 105-degree like temperature.
You were
And I'm
walking
like,
around with
oh,
105
yeah.
degrees.
And driving and everything, like I still felt crappy and stuff, but everybody around me wouldn't believe me that I was sick. So then they admit me and they don't know what's wrong with me. They're doing every test. They're like, you don't have the flu. I don't know what's happening. So then they do an x-ray because I suggest, is it pneumonia? So then they're like, oh, okay, you have pneumonia. And in my job during that time, everybody was getting sick and they were having like bronchitis, like crazy things that you normally wouldn't see. So after that, I started wearing a mask like before it even like went into effect because I would always get sick and I would have like, 2 jobs and I'm here also going to school. So it's like, I'm always around people. And wearing I started wearing the mask and I see that in other countries, people wear masks because of the humidity and the air pressure and all
Mhm.
that. So I found it interesting how it was normal over there. And here, I'm wearing a mask and people thought that I was crazy. And then March came around and, like everybody was forced to wear a mask like by what, April or something. So I found that interesting how now it's like we are like normalizing like wearing a mask and it'll be a little hard to go back to like not wearing it because,
That's an interesting
it's
point.
preventative.
Yeah. I think we were saying, a lot of people were saying during this that, like, during flu season, like when we're done with this, like a year from now or two, like people might just opt to wear a mask because they'll be able to go out more and not feel like they're going to get worse or like give it to other people because that's always you remember, like you'd say, hey, I'm going to hang out with friends and they're like, oh, I'm sick. It's like, well, don't come. I don't want to get sick. Like literally, and it would be that whole idea. So like maybe that would, I don't know, help that because obviously we saw that the flu season was down a lot less this year. I remember when I got COVID tested because I thought I had COVID at one time as well. And they're like, I'm like, can I get a flu test or something? And they're like, there is no flu this year. And I'm like, what? And they're like, there is no flu this year. And they're like, no one's getting the flu. Like they said if it was any other year, I'd say, yeah, it could be the flu, but no. So, I mean, but did you, out of curiosity, Dashi, did you go get like antibody tested and to see if it was COVID early?
Well, at the time they started doing it here, it was like what, end of March,
Yeah.
April? Correct me if I'm wrong, but
Yeah.
like I had my stuff like in December, like
Mm.
middle of December. So it took like a month for me to get better. And I just thought, like, I thought somebody took a voodoo doll and was just like, I hate you. And, like wanting like the worst for me because it felt like so bad. So,
That's
like,
crazy.
you can't even breathe. You feel like you're dying, but you're not. That was in my case. And I couldn't sleep. It's like everything was hard for me. Um, so I'm not sure, but then every symptom that they say are the COVID symptoms I had
Interesting.
before they like knew how to do the testing and all that. So
No,
I
I
don't
mean,
know to this
like, a
day.
lot of people were saying that there was a lot of articles going around at the beginning of the pandemic too that was saying like it was here earlier. I mean, technically, I believe someone can correct me if I'm wrong. I believe the COVID-19 pandemic started technically in like October of last year, the end of October, beginning of November. So to think
Yeah.
that, oh, nobody came and traveled from that
Right.
time to different
Hmm.
Exactly.
states or countries is just like ridiculous. It wouldn't have taken that long. So, like, I think maybe it was like spotty in places and like something like, oh, I don't know, maybe you were in contact with someone that did travel or was off came off a cruise or something like that that was like near something that could have been that.
Right. I've heard
Hmm.
stories like that. I mean, I can't, validate any of them, but I've heard stories like that of people having, in late 2019, like you said, like exactly the same symptoms, but because it wasn't, being really acknowledged on this level or taken seriously, it was, people just kind of wrote it off as, oh, you got a bad bug or whatever.
Yeah, bad cold or something.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
yeah. But out of curiosity, with all of this, and obviously Daji, with your experience and stuff, what do we think about these new guidelines and what do we think about like approaching the indoors and stuff too? Like obviously we all have different unique experiences, different medical history, different like views, different family and how they view the whole situation of COVID. Like what do we think about, returning to normal life with these coming out?
I feel like normal life is just gonna consist of wearing a mask. That's just gonna be the new normal. Um, because sure, that's in America, right? We have these guidelines, but if you go to other countries, they still have to wear a mask and they probably don't even have vaccinations. Like, it's scarce out there.
Yeah.
But here, I feel like I'll always wear a mask. I don't know. I feel very weird. Like as soon as I take it off, I feel like I'm doing something illegal whenever I'm outside. So, I don't know. I feel like I'll always wear it, except when you're eating, of course, and you're like in a restaurant. But yeah, no.
I recently went back and started doing that. Like finally went to like a restaurant and stuff. I have to tell you, I was low key paranoid. I was like, I
Oh
saw
yeah. The
everybody.
first time you do stuff is like it's weird. Like you gotta like wrap your head around just doing normal stuff. Like it's stressful.
It
It really
is, and like
is.
I like
It
obviously
is.
kept my mask on. I've ate out now 3 times since like out inside, like not outside, and I literally kept my mask on the whole time until I was about to eat or I was taking a sip of my drink because it was just like it's just common courtesy to the employees and also just to you know I don't know. Like I've been to restaurants and people just like will casually walk out without their mask back on. I'm like, the whole point is if you're getting up, you're spreading in the air. But like, so I've been pretty good about like when I go out, I'll keep my mask on unless I'm eating.
Right.
But I know not everybody else is the same way, and I just kind of keep myself distance. But it is still a scary thing. Like I went out last night and I was like, this is scary. I don't like
Yeah,
this.
no. I remember going into stores for the first time. I called, I called somebody on the phone. I was like, yeah, I just want to have a conversation because I'm bugging out right now. And like, why? I'm like, I'm walking into a store. Like I haven't like this, this hasn't happened in a year and change. Like
Yeah.
there's a huge like, and I mean that's a whole another conversation is the
Yeah,
mental
it is a
health
whole other
aspects
conversation,
of
and it's something
COVID.
that I think it's also, it just like, so for me, I knew I had to do indoor dining because then I felt like I was never going to do it. Like I felt like I had to start doing it or I was never going to be able to. And granted, I was 2 weeks after my vaccination period and things like that. But like, I need to start doing things or I'm never going to feel like, and that doesn't mean I'm not being
Right.
safe. You have to just do it on your own terms and start to do what makes you feel comfortable and, go with it.
Right.
You
Like
know what keeps it
exactly.
fun? Sorry, Tara.
No,
Yeah,
it's good.
I was gonna say what keeps it fun is the fact that you don't know what other people look like. So when they take off their mask, you're like, oh, that's your face. Like it's
Okay.
always looking on the
interesting.
bright side of things, aren't you?
I low key that has made me like that has made like people. It's weird because we had this thing where people like there were some people we were out walking recently. And there were some people that we knew, but I didn't recognize any of them because they had their masks on. So they're like, "Hey," and I'm like, "Hi." They're like, "No, it's so and so." I'm like, "Oh, I can't do this. I can't."
Literally when I'm working, that's like the same thing. I'm like, who are you? Like, I'm
Like,
just
which
like,
one are you? Can you put a name tag on, please?
like literally. But anyway, getting off this COVID news, Tara, what do we got?
I'm buying around the first day that we get through a news cycle without referring to COVID-19.
Yes, true.
Anyway, um, but that's later. Right now, we're gonna talk about the Oscars because the Oscars had a historic evening, but in possibly the worst possible way that they could.
Also, we have,
Oscars.
oh, sorry, before you even say, also, we have our entertainment contributor, Thomas Nera, that's going to join us for this story. Hi, Thomas.
Yeah.
Hey, what's up, everyone?
Hello.
Hello.
What's up?
Uh,
We can talk Oscars.
Yeah, so the 93rd Academy Awards pulled the lowest ratings in the Oscars history. Hang on, this slow clap, slow clap. All right, good work, team. Good work. But yeah, no, according to CNN.com, Hollywood's biggest night was also its smallest ever. 93rd Academy Awards tried to cover for a lost year in film with a boatload of intrigue, a change in venue, a movie-style production led by a person who I don't know, and a change in format with a surprise ending. We'll get back to that. I wanna touch on that later.
Oh, it's okay. We should all touch on that.
The what they changed and why they changed it.
Yeah.
There's some sus things happening. Also just said sus on the radio for the first time, so that's good. But none of that could prevent the Oscars from turning in the lowest rated telecast in the show's history.
So, what were those numbers, Tara, for the lowest?
Do we know the numbers exactly?
Yeah, it not 9.8 million viewers, which sounds like a lot, but that's 58% below the show's ratings from last year.
Okay, because it says it usually brings in 23.6 million viewers.
Right.
Jeez.
That's a lot of lost audience.
Yikes! Yeah, it is.
I didn't know Steve Soderbergh was the director. I believe Steve Soderbergh directed I know him from the Ocean's trilogy, Ocean's 11, 12.
Okay. Okay.
Love
Obvious,
those.
obviously, too. If anybody missed our broadcast on Monday, we did a deep dive into more of the Oscars, and like kind of going through the show a little bit. But what do we think about this?
I
Thomas,
think,
you want to start off?
yeah, sure. I think they made some decisions to try and change the show from previous years. And it was notable. A lot of people noticed. I noticed. And most of it didn't bode well. For one thing, first of all, they moved the performances of Best Original Song to the pre-show, which, to my understanding, not a lot of people watch.
Yeah, let's put the more entertaining things off the telecast.
Literally,
Like people don't want to see that, right?
Exactly.
But what's nice about that is that usually breaks up the awards a little bit, and that it's like, why would we get rid of that? Or like move it to the beginning before the show.
100%.
My guess is they got rid of it to make more time during the ceremony, but then they have like segments like there
was like trivia or something.
There was like a guess that Oscar song or trivia thing
instead of actually playing the song.
And
it didn't make it shorter, by the way.
It didn't make it shorter at all. It still went like The Oscars have always gone past like the end scheduled time on TV,
Right.
Tara, for
and it's
you,
went
what
past
they did with the
45 minutes.
music is they gave it the Grammys treatment, where they give all the best awards prior to
Yeah.
the
All the
broadcast.
interesting stuff is off screen, and on screen is like stuff that nobody has ever heard. But there's a couple of there's one thing they did. I don't know if you guys touch on the change of order of the awards
We
on
didn't,
Monday?
we didn't, and I think we should
Okay,
talk about it right now.
this is some scummy stuff right here,
It really
right?
was.
Thank you. Right. So what
I agree.
happened was they moved Best Actor to the final award of the night because Chadwick Boseman was in that category, and they basically, to tease the fact that he might be getting an award for his work in Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, they moved that. Instead of doing Best Picture as the final award of the night, they did Best Actor as final award of the night. So they pushed that all the way back, and he didn't win. Now it's not. I'm not even mad that he didn't win, because if anybody could beat him out, it would be Sir Anthony Hopkins. But like, that's scummy. That's scummy.
In my opinion, in this, by the way, like no offense to any actors or actresses, Best Picture should be always the end award. That's the whole point of the award ceremony. I don't
It
like.
should be the
I
end of
like
the game.
all the actors that are in the category. They're all good, but I'm telling you, the Best Picture, it is about the movie itself, and it should be the last award. I am sorry. That's just my opinion on no matter who's nominated.
And it
should
always
always
has
be the last
been.
award.
It
Yeah.
always has been, but because they wanted it, because they were essentially capitalizing on this very popular actor's death, they pushed it to the end to keep people waiting for that category. That's scummy. That's not cool.
That was really bad. And it makes no sense because in the past, also with posthumous nominations, like when Heath Ledger was nominated for Best Supporting Actor, they didn't move that all the way to the end of
Yeah.
that Oscars show, because it's like, it's still like, if Chadwick won, it still would have meant something significant if it was, not the last award.
Right.
It makes no sense whatsoever. When I was watching and they announced Best Picture, the first thing in my mind was like, oh, okay, so Chadwick must be winning Best Actor. But then,
Right.
but like the way that the voting works, I think like only like 2 or 3 people actually know for sure the winner before it's announced. So it's like, but how can they know that? That's like that was the first thought that popped in my head, and they didn't.
I didn't get to watch it, but I know Anthony Hopkins actually did a little video for Chadwick after the night. I think it was released on Monday, and so I didn't get a chance to see that. But like, I feel like he also probably knew. I feel like all those nominees knew, like, we're up against this guy that was a great actor that happened to pass away in this past year. Like, how do we not like let him have? You know what I mean? Like, it feels
Right.
awkward, I'm sure. But I mean, with this whole idea of the ratings going down, this is not like a trend, obviously, that's new. All the award shows we saw kind of like a little suffering this year because
Yep.
pandemic and all. Like, everybody's sick of watching their TV, and then they're also sick of the celebrities getting to go do what they want, I guess, in a sense.
Pretty much. Also,
but- Oh, go ahead.
I cut you off. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, but I think the one thing I will applaud them for, and I could also say the same thing for the Grammys, I'm glad it wasn't over Zoom. That's the one thing I'm glad for, because as much as like I didn't like the quality of how they filmed it and how the audio was, and because they filmed it more like a film instead of just doing a broadcast.
Right.
So like that I have problems with, but at least it wasn't over Zoom. Like, I'm so sick of watching things over Zoom, mostly because my own life is made up of Zoom calls. So I'm so sick of
Yeah.
that. So I'm glad
Yeah.
it wasn't that.
I agree
ahead.
with that. I agree with that, and I'm glad that they pulled it off. I think that even before the pandemic started, and the pandemic's just been kind of a catalyst, because I mean, we said this about when the Golden Globes happened. Golden Globes, which no Black people at all are a part of the voting process. We said this before, is that there's kind of been this accountability for award shows now. And now that this is the year of all the excess being stripped back, and you kind of just have to look at it for what it is, that people are being a lot more critical of what's going on, and that's okay. That's not necessarily a bad thing that people are like, hey, this is not, the way you're running things and is not great. We're not really satisfied with this because of all these reasons. That's just where I'm at. I think that sorry, thought of Al Pacino falling asleep on the Zoom call again. You mentioned that. Sorry, I flashed back. That was the Golden Globes, right? I think that he was at one of the award shows in a Zoom call,
Probably.
and man just nodded off.
But I
But
think
I feel like the type of person Al Pacino is, he probably would have fell asleep in person as well.
Yeah, he wouldn't care. He didn't care.
I think the other problem with the viewership, if you think about it this way, and I know we touched on it on Monday, and I was saying it to Thomas before in our pre-show earlier, I felt like this year with movies and stuff, I felt like there was less variety, if that makes any sense. And, this topic's also come up before. A lot of our generation likes movies like Marvel movies. Um they like Star Wars and they like all these other things. And I'm not saying that that should only be considered or anything. There's a place for like these other kinds of films too. But because those films don't ever get recognized or something, a lot of our demographic who also doesn't have cable anymore, and they made it super hard to access this year, doesn't want any interest in these awards. Like, I saw every single film last year. I did not see a single one this year. Single one that was nominated in the Best Picture category. And I think that just says a lot. Last year, there was a film like The Joker, which happens to be a comic book movie. Thomas, you could even probably agree with me on this. That was the only other movie that was a comic book besides Black Panther that was nominated in like one of those more high categories.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember anything.
Visual effects will sometimes get nominated and stuff, but it's just how it is.
Right. There's a little bit of like a disconnect between like popular movies and like the art movies that get nominated for a lot of stuff.
I'm sure all of these films are great in their own respects. I'm sure of it. But like there needs to be, was there any like action films? No. Was there any more of that kind of film that would attract a different kind of audience?
That's interesting.
Sorry. No, go ahead.
It's like you're saying, correct me if I'm wrong, like because they didn't do that, our generation technically was more like they were like, oh, we don't have to watch this because they weren't rooting for like any movie that we love or like root for.
Yeah, in a sense, I'm saying that. I'm saying like, because like if you look at people like that are more entertainment involved, yeah, sure, they did see a lot of films like that. But to the normal audience member that's like, I don't know, someone that knows nothing about film, knows nothing about any of that, they're not going to sit through an award show unless they like something that's there. That's maybe, right. And I'm not saying that they might not like some of these other artsy films. I think these films are all great. This is awesome. Like, obviously, they're all nominated for a reason.
This is just not what most people are watching.
Exactly. Like, and especially a lot of these films had more darker tones this year. And a lot of that, like, a lot of people didn't want to deal with that. Yeah. I know personally during the pandemic, I was watching a lot more comedies than like.
Right. Or just a lot more like enjoyable stuff because like, and I get it. I get like being mindful of not, just doing what's popular or what's, most, sequelable. I get it, not wanting to like fall into that trap, but also like people aren't watching a lot of these movies. Like you hit the nail on the head. I think like they're really great. They're really like creative works of art. But like most people, like how many people have seen The Father?
And like, if you actually know what that film's about, it's a sad movie.
It's about a dude with Alzheimer's, or
exactly.
And like and don't get me wrong, Anthony Hopkins, I heard played that to perfection, and the way the director cut it was, great. I heard nothing but good things about this movie. This is not a movie that most average people are going to want to go see. It's not.
And I'm saying like times they changed the game a little bit with like looking at last year. There was a variety of different films. There was thrillers. There was more of a romantic drama kind of like there was more. There was a comic book movie. It was all different. So people were like more into that, like I saw The Joker a few times. I saw it with a bunch of friends. Everybody liked that. I can't really say that every one of my friends saw all the other movies that were on that ballot last year, and the same thing goes with this year.
I think you bring up a really good point in the fact that the Academy is always like neglected, like, and just tossed aside like blockbuster and like superhero and comic book films. But they can be like so artsy and like art house type films too. Like there's like you bring up the Joker, which obviously is a very good example of that. The first thing that comes to my head in regards to like a comic book movie is Logan. Logan was fantastic. I love them. It was like one of my favorite movies of that year. And I think that was actually nominated for Best Adapted Screenplay. But the but just because the movie's a blockbuster doesn't mean it's not capable of, you know, being one of the best movies of the year from an Oscars perspective. Because I think they are. I think they should be considered. And honestly, I don't really know why they're not. I
agree 100%.
I feel like it's also the streaming. I know you were talking about that a little bit, but I feel like we live in a time now where, like, for example, 10 years ago, I remember I had to like calculate my schedule, like at 8 p.m. I'm watching this, and TV was just more family oriented, and it's like, oh, let's watch this award show together. Now I feel like everybody's more independent, and it's like you go do you. So it does make sense. Like, why is it that they're not, focusing on the new generation that's coming up? They're the ones that will make it, like, they'll probably advertise it in all types of ways, like, oh, look at this. So it's interesting that they don't even consider that.
Yeah. And like I said earlier too, with the whole, like, it was hard to access, but also think about how many of you guys still have cable? Like, I don't.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I don't. And so I have to like trust on a streaming service. And if you're maybe can't afford that streaming service to get that, or you're in college and there's just not good internet access, or whatever the case may be, it's not accessible to everybody, so it's hard. And I think our generation's also built on watching things on YouTube and not sitting through a whole thing. We have YouTube,
Yeah.
TikTok. We're watching things that are short and convenient on our schedules, and not something that's like a 3-hour broadcast that was kind of boring to watch.
I mean, I think like, there's still like, you can still get away with that. It's just, you have to think about how you structure it differently. You have to know your audience. And again, like, just like with the movies they pick, just like with, the people they have picking these movies, there's this like disconnect that they're not in touch with their audience. They're really not. Also, we talked about it already, but the way they need to come out and say something, because the way they did Chadwick Boseman with that bait thing was rude, disrespectful.
It was. But with
people caught it.
But with that, we're gonna take a short break. And when we come back, Tom's gonna hit us with some entertainment news, music news, and go what's going on in the music world, because we've been talking about film, but not music. So we will be right back here on 90.3 WMSC, Upper Montclair, New Jersey. Stay tuned.
What's up, people? You are listening to 90.3 WMSC, Upper Montclair, and this is the Morning Buzz, where every weekday at 8, we bring you all the best things from around campus and around the world. I am your free gift with purchase, Tara, joined by Amanda Marino and our entertainment reporter, Thomas Nera. How are you doing today?
I am doing great. Thank you, Tara. How are you doing?
I'm hanging in. I'm doing the best I can.
Fantastic. Should I just get into it then with the music?
Yeah,
100%.
All right, great. Well, in upcoming album news, British YouTuber KSI has announced his second album, All Over the Place, which will be released later this year on July 16th. The YouTuber first came to prominence in the early 2010s for his gaming videos, but expanded his content as his fan base continued growing. KSI has made a name for himself as one of the biggest YouTubers in the UK, accumulating over 34 million subscribers across his 2 YouTube channels, and has recorded and released rap music in recent years, with his debut album, The Simulation, being released in May of 2020. Some of the biggest names that will appear on All Over the Place include Future, 21 Savage, Polo G, Bugsy Malone, and Lil Durk. The album will contain a total of 14 tracks, and KSI stated his excitement for the album, calling it an improvement to the simulation in various aspects. KSI will also be performing a one-off show next year at Wembley's SSE Arena on February 25th, 2022. In other news, many Spotify users in the UK will soon see an increase in their monthly fees to the music streaming service. The company sent out an email to users of the price increases that are set to begin this June. The increases will affect 3 of the 4 subscription plans available to UK users. In British pounds, users with premium student accounts will see a pound increase from £4.99 to £5.99. Premium duo users will also see a pound increase from $12.99 to $13.99. And premium family accounts will see a £2 increase from $14.99 to $16.99. The announcement comes soon after the news of Spotify founder Daniel Ek's vocal intention of buying the English Premier League soccer team Arsenal FC, which itself has already landed Ek and Spotify in controversy. And in more album release news, teenage pop star Billie Eilish has announced the release date for her highly anticipated second studio album titled Happier Than Ever, which will see release this summer on July 30th. Eilish rose to international stardom around the release of her debut album When We All Fall Asleep, Where Do We Go, and her hit single Bad Guy, winning her a total of 5 Grammys in 2020. She added 2 more Grammys to her name this year, making her a 7-time Grammy winner at only 19 years old. The album is expected to contain 16 tracks and to be just under an hour long, with the lead single being Therefore I Am, a song Eilish released last November. All right, so what are our thoughts on Billie Eilish?
I can vibe with Billie Eilish. I don't
I
mind.
think it's so cool that she has so many Grammys at her age.
Insane.
And I'm just
You're
sitting
one of
over
those
here and I'm just talking to
weird-
a mic about it, you know?
I'm one of those weirdo teenagers that has their life together. I don't like that. At 19 years old, I was not banging out Grammy-worthy records.
Yeah,
I'll
can
tell
you
that much.
imagine? And like I think
Uh,
she recorded them all in her like house. Like
It's
too,
crazy. Like
with
her and like
Phineas, her
Lord.
brother. Yeah.
Yeah.
But no, she's cool. She's like she seems like a pretty chill person. I think it's
Honestly,
cool.
Thomas, I would rather talk about the Spotify thing
That's
because I feel like we
Yeah.
can go.
Okay.
We can go on that, me and Tara.
Like
Go ahead.
you are literally like notoriously cheap, like to the point where it's a joke. You and streaming services like you are notoriously cheap for not paying artists and paying like decimals of cents on the dollar per song play to these artists. And now you want now you want to charge customers more. Why? You don't need it to pay your artists. Would you want? This is not a look. This is not a good look. This is not.
We've
You
had
never know.
Oh, go
Sorry.
ahead. Tashi. No, go, Tashi, go ahead. Go ahead.
He might need it because you said he was buying Arsenal, right?
Buying-
So he might be using the money that he gets to buy it, which is pretty messed up.
Daniel Ek is planning on buying Arsenal FC, which is one of the biggest teams in England. I know their value has got to be in the billions of dollars.
So Tara has had this discussion before because I know she and Philippe would go at it last semester because as all like music lovers, but also as musicians and things like that, it's disgraceful. It really is. Artists, unless you're like someone like Taylor Swift, you're not making any money. That's just the thing.
Streaming services do not pay. I don't know. People don't understand this. Like they pay like single cents per song
Yes.
play.
Apple just came out with it the other day that they literally pay a penny per stream. Mind you, that penny doesn't just go right into the artist's pocket. That penny also goes to everything else that is set in like the contract and set in everything else. It's so that penny's not just like, oh cool, I got 5 pennies because I got 5 streams today. That's not how it works.
You get less than a cent per song stream.
Yeah.
It's the word you used is perfect. It is disgraceful.
It is
and especially
disgraceful.
now, like where tours aren't happening as much,
Mhm.
which is where artists make a lot of money now. A lot of their money is tours, right?
That's why people don't also understand gigging and touring for bands. That's where they make their money. They're making their money off them touring, like from the ticket sales, but also merchandise. That's where they're making their money. They're not making money from you streaming unless you're, like I said, Taylor Swift or another big name. Like you're not making anything. And those people still get like a lot of like I need to say a nice word for the FCC. They don't get the best benefits either because we've seen like people like Taylor Swift, get it like, and I'm not going to feel bad for her for a second, but like, cause she has money and she has a career, whatever. But these contracts that these artists sign are not the best either because these executives want all the money because they know you're going to do well. They know you're going to be famous. So it's
right. Like I remember, right. No, you're 100% spot on. Like I remember like Big D and the Kids Table, who are a mainstay ska punk band. Like they've been around doing this for a minute. And I remember their singer posting a check from Spotify once that was less than $1. and they get thousands and thousands of streams. Like they're not even doing
Mhm.
bad. They're not even like, I wouldn't even consider them like, they're a small group, but they're not a tiny group, you know? And like, what are you supposed to do? Okay, let's split. It's like a 6-person band. We're gonna split the dollar. Like,
Yeah,
what
yeah. What are
is
you gonna do?
this? We're gonna tear it up? Like,
And yeah, I saw a tweet a few years ago too. It was from Peter Frampton, and he was like, "Oh, cool! I got a check for like $1,500. Like, cool. Like for how many times my songs are streamed? And think about how long he's been out. Like,
he's
like
yeah,
the 70s. Like, cool.
right.
Disgraceful. And that's why they do make their money in touring. And like with the local bands too, like thinking about like, you see a band at a restaurant and stuff, everybody's suffering there too. As a member of a band that gigs, like people don't want to give you money. Like you have to fight with them to like say, hey, I'm dedicating 3 or 4 hours for your birthday party. I
And
have to
no
drive an
exposure is not
hour.
payment.
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing. Like I've been dealing with people for gigging, and I offered someone 325 for 3 hours and for me to drive 4 hours and like or an hour, I'm sorry, play 3 hours and also bring all my equipment. 325, also in the middle of a pandemic. And they're like, nah. I'm like, you kidding me? You actually kidding me? Like,
People really think that like smaller artists are really making this money. I don't know whether it's because
mm-hmm.
certain people put on a misconception or just lack of information. I don't know what it is, but really people really think that like just because you have a big streaming number, like you like that direct, like that's a ticket to financial success. It's not.
I mean,
Like it's just not in any medium, in music, in online stuff, like the Twitch stuff that I've been doing and that Ryan's been doing. Like
mhm.
like how little these streams are actually worth, or how much
Yeah.
these song plays are actually worth. So
I
like
mean, so looking back at this story specifically, like Thomas, if these artists were making that money, I'd be like, cool, great, good for artists. But like they're not. And I
nope.
feel
Fair
like
enough.
it was a different story years ago when there was CDs that were people were buying CDs, people were buying vinyl because it was a little more money and people that was like more of like between like the record company and just you at that point. But now it's between these streaming services that want the rights too. So I don't know.
Yeah, for sure. I know a lot of people were already talking, but first of all, they're also increasing the student account, which I think the whole point of a student account is it needs to be cheap.
It needs to be
What
cheap. Yeah,
gives you the
literally.
nerve?
What
And
gives you the nerve here at 90.3 WMSC Upper Montclair, New Jersey? That's a segue right there. But anyway, continue, Thomas. What were you going to say?
it some people might argue is like, yeah, it's just like a pound increase or like a dollar increase, but like that accumulates.
Those people who would make that argument are not students.
That's true.
Also, what you're paying for Spotify and maybe another music service, but then you're also paying for Netflix, Hulu, Paramount Plus, Disney Plus. I'm probably missing another Amazon, HBO Max, and it's all in the same thing. And it's becoming too chaotic because you got like Spotify, you got Pandora. I'm probably missing a million other ones that also have like streaming service. It's ridiculous.
It's
Right.
becoming too much.
It's
And this,
becoming
I
too
feel like
much.
this is going to come to a head in the not too distant future, that streaming services are going to realize they can't get away with charging like they're the only thing that their consumer buys.
Yeah. And I think it's gonna come when like more things like Amazon start, I think, emerging more into that because like look at Amazon right now. They have movies and you could buy merchandise. That's a whole other thing. Then they also have music, Amazon Music, and things like that. So if you have a platform like that, you're already winning because you're getting movies and television and you're also getting music. And there is a student discount. So
That's
I don't know.
the one thing I've been terrified about approaching graduation. It's like, oh, I'm gonna pay full price for things.
Nah,
Oh
you
no,
keep
I
that
don't.
email. They don't need to know. You got the Montclair State EDU email address. They don't
Tara,
need to know
Gosh,
nothing.
Tara,
I didn't say anything. I'm sorry.
Tara, we're on air.
I didn't say that. I didn't say you should or shouldn't do anything. I'm just saying if you kept your school email address on file, they would have no way of disputing that. I'm not saying. I'm
Spotify,
just saying. I'm just saying.
Spotify, Netflix, all those companies, you hear nothing. This is not being broadcast at all.
Nobody cares about my opinion to begin with. You think companies are listening to me?
Wait, Netflix has a student
No, I was just
discount?
using that as exact. I was
Oh.
gonna say that would be awesome. I'm paying way too much for We're paying
I
way.
feel like they should just do a student bundle as a whole. That'd be so nice.
Well, I think Disney Plus was trying to do that at first, like a bundle because they had the Hulu and you can get ESPN with Disney. But I don't want ESPN, so like, you know,
Right. Like, I don't
like, I have no
fully don't
interest.
care.
But I see like hear me out. I see a company like Disney or like, I mean, Amazon, it might get better with the quality of stuff, but think about if Disney just gets like a Spotify or like a company like that. Not saying they'll buy Spotify, but like getting some kind of music platform with them, they're going to try to reel you in on that kind of stuff. And I could see that working with them because they could add it to their bundle, they could charge you an extra few bucks, and that would work with them. Hear me
I'm
out.
like freaked out by that because I'm just feeling like I'm gonna hear Aladdin, like that's gonna be top of the playlist on the Disney music.
Your algorithm is you always want to listen to Disney music. There's no other algorithm. It's just Disney music.
I mean, if it's Phil Collins on Tarzan, I'm not complaining.
Hey, you know, that's a good point. That's a good
You got
point.
Elton John. You got Elton John.
Yeah,
But
if we did the
I'm questioning.
classics.
Well, they have like, like explicit music because they didn't even want to do the Lizzie McGuire.
You know what? We're gonna have
Mm.
that's gonna turn into a whole nother discussion because I know Disney is in talks of making some kind of separate platform that's not not like your classic Disney movies and stuff, but also more of the stuff that they have on Hulu now because they own Hulu. Things that are more like ABC Family or ABC Freeform, whatever it is now, and things that are more like it's Disney, but it's not Disney like your cartoons that you grew up watching. It's more of like the grown-up content that Disney owns now, like 20th Century Fox, things like that. But yeah, but anyway, I think we've reached past the top of the hour at this point. Here at 90.3 WMSC Upper Montclair, New Jersey. Tara, thank you for letting me join you today.
No problem.
So
Thank you for tagging in.
Yeah, no problem. It's always a pleasure. I knew I was gonna have fun with you too, Tara, because you're always like a fun like person to hang out with on like a call like this and stuff and do a show with. So thank you.
Thank you. Same here.
But anyway, Tara, you want to close us out?
Yeah, thank you for tuning in to 90.3 WMSC Upper Montclair. Make sure you stay tuned for what's up next, and the Morning Buzz will be back tomorrow at 8. Take care, everybody.
Bye.